Hey developers, have you ever wondered what happens when you hit a run button on your Python script? Now let's simplify this process. When you hit a run button on your Python script, which is basically a set of instructions that we give to a translator. This translator can be Python interpreter or a compiler, which interprets our Python source code into a machine readable code and runs it on a machine. So in order to run our Python source code, we need this interpreter or a compiler. And from where can we get this? We can download it from the Python's official website, which is python.org. When people talk about the Python, they are most likely talking about the implementation, not about the language, because the Python, the language itself, is a specification. You can think of it as a documentation that somebody wrote, which says print, that means something in Python, name, that means something in Python. When you download Python from the python.org, which is our official website, you are basically downloading this GitHub repository, which is written in C language. It is a program that reads our Python source code and runs it on a machine. There are other implementations that are written in different languages like IronPython, which is written in .NET Framework, Python, which is written in Java, PyPy, which is written in Python. When you download Python, the official language is CPython. You are downloading the interpreter that follows the Python specification. But this machine can come in a many form. When people talk about the Python, they are basically talking about the CPython, which does the work of translating, that interprets your code into a machine readable code and runs it on a machine. Now let's get into the details. We are downloading the machine that takes our Python source code, convert it into a binary code, and then runs it on a machine. Now let's understand how Python interpreter works with the help of example. Now suppose you have a list of instructions that you give to a chef for preparing a dish. First instruction is to chop some vegetables, add some water into the bowl, add some spices and other instructions. These instructions are processed by the chef and prepared a dish. In the same way, Python interpreter works. Python interpreter takes your all the instructions in a sequence and converts it into a binary code and then runs it on a machine. In Python, the Python interpreter is responsible for the code optimization. So the compilation typically happens on the fly. That means the process of converting the source code into the bytecode happens dynamically during the runtime. Unlike the traditional method that converts the entire source code into a machine code before the execution, in Python, when the interpreter encounters the certain operations like mathematical calculations or loops that could benefit from the optimization, it may choose to compile those specific parts. Interpreter decides which part of the code to compile based on the optimization criteria as performance consideration. Now let's understand how Python works under the hood. The interpreter takes your Python source code and convert it into a bytecode. If needed, it may call the compiler to compile your code and converts it into a bytecode. Still, it is not the code that your processor can directly understand. So this bytecode is then further sent to the PVM, which is also known as Python virtual machine. This Python virtual machine converts your bytecode into a machine readable code. This machine readable code is the code that processor can directly understand and runs it on a machine. So this is how the Python interpreter works.